On today's episode, I interview Ken Rusk. He's the author of Blue Collar Cash, which is an outstanding book written about the trades and why not everyone should go to college, and that there's a lot of money to be made and a lot of happiness to be had following and pursuing your dreams and your interests. More importantly than that, Ken's just a wise guy who's been there, done that, and he drops knowledge bombs throughout this interview. And he's just got a great sense of humor on top of that. So you're going to really enjoy this interview. I really feel fortunate because I have the pleasure of interviewing Ken Rusk. He's not only a best-selling author, but he's an entrepreneur and a blue-collar advocate, showing that there's no degree required for comfort, peace, and freedom. Ken spent his younger years literally digging ditches when working in construction. He never went to college and instead made goals, planned, and worked hard for 30 years. And now he's an incredibly successful entrepreneur with multiple businesses and multiple revenue streams. Ken specializes in mentoring and coaching hundreds of young people in areas such as short, mid, and long-term goal setting, life visualization, career path, and sound financial planning. He's passionate about helping other people achieve their dreams, regardless of their educational background or past. So with that, welcome to the podcast, Ken.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad you're on here. As I went through your book, what I saw was a common theme of a guy who was rooting for the underdog because you were the underdog, and you have built an amazing business and an amazing life. And before we get into that and kind of share what your process is and the principles that you talk about in the book, can you speak to just a little bit of your background and how it went from literally, as you explained in the book, digging ditches for around the foundations for basements to, as successful as you are today? Just kind of the genesis of that.
Yeah. So when we were younger, we had a lot of odd jobs, a lot of part-time jobs. And my first real serious job was when I was 15. This is probably my fifth or sixth job that I had, but this is my first kind of real full-time one. My high school shared a fence with an industrial park, and we used to cut through a hole in the fence, walk through this industrial park after school, and then go to the carryout to hang out after school. That's just what we did back then. And I just remember going through these businesses, and there was always this energy and hustle bustle and people and equipment and things moving around. And this particular company caught my eye because it had a bunch of guys, a bunch doing work, outside work, that kind of thing. And I thought, well, I needed money for my first used car. I needed to take my girlfriend out for pizza or whatever we wanted to do. So
sure.
So I said, I'm going to check it out. So I knew someone that worked there, and I just said to him, I said, what do you guys do? And they were basically ditch diggers. And so I said, well, I think I'm qualified to do that. So in the summertime, I dug ditches during when I was out of school. And in the wintertime, I'd work in the office after school. And that's kind of where the whole thing happened, because I started making phone calls, and then I learned all different kinds of marketing and this kind of stuff. And I basically learned the front and the rear half of the house, if you will. So I absorbed that over the next three and a half years. And then it was time to are you going to college or what are you going to do? And I just remember thinking, well, I like working here. I like controlling my own destiny. I like creating my own revenue, my own financial reward or whatever. And they came to me and said, hey, we're opening franchises around the country, and we want to know if you'd be involved in that because you know so much about what's going on. So yeah, I'm 18 and a half. I lived in a suitcase for 3 years, going around Cincinnati, Columbus, Pittsburgh, Chicago, opening up these franchises from scratch. And I did that for probably 3 or 4 years, and then got tired of living out of a suitcase. So I moved to Toledo, and we started our own company here with 6 people. And I think we have now almost 200. So it's been one hell of a ride.
Gosh. Wow. So at 21, you started your first company, and that was yours, solely or do you have partners in that? Tell me about that.
Well, yeah. So the numbers are, I was probably 22 and a half because I was in high school, and then I did that over the franchising for 4 years. So about 22 and a half, almost 23. And my brother had moved out, and he helped me start this company. So we did it together, and then he left shortly after that to move back home to be more near his wife's family. Um, and so, yeah, it was just one of those things where, we just started with a small staff and just grounded out, found ways to create results that we could control, and then we could grow them, and then, try to compound them, if you will. And yeah, it worked out pretty good 37 years later.
Yeah, I would say so. 200 employees. Uh, General construction, were you specialized in a certain trade? Was there?
Yeah, we still do the same thing I did when I was 15. We still dig ditches for, smelly, old, wet, damp foundations. And,
Yeah.
but it also grew into other things. We, as the business grew and as I brought on more people and more management, then I was able to get into home building. And we still do that in Branson, Missouri. And we build office buildings and lease those out. We're in construction chemicals. I mean, there's several things that I'm doing now. And
Mhm.
yeah, for me, it was all about the more I could branch out, the more I could reward the people that were with me the whole time, because,
Yeah.
the more revenue streams I found, the less I needed to rely on the main one, so I could share more of that. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. And when I opened and said, the underdog, it's because, and I think you and I are somewhat close in age. Growing up, like either you went to college or you were making the worst decision of your life. I mean, it was pounded into us and on our generation that you have to go to college, and my parents had never gone to college. Most of my family had never gone to college, but I'll be damned, I was going to have to go. And again, I take nothing away from a formal education, but I don't feel the same way these days. I think that learning has been democratized through the internet, and actually doing the work. The 4 years you spend on the road, that's an MBA. You're literally getting an MBA doing it.
Yeah, so that's a great point. I remember my father saying, because he didn't go to college, and he didn't push any of my four brothers, and he didn't push any of us to do it. He said, probably smart if you want to study a specific thing. Like if I wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor, or I wanted to be a teacher, or I wanted to be a banker, those are specific paths that you take, specific schools with specific classes to get done. And that job's waiting for you when you're done. But, just to go there and play beer pong for 4 years and hang out, and, that to me didn't make any sense. So, I think that there was kind of a perfect storm, and I'll explain it to you real quick. So
Yeah.
when I was in high school, I remember being in econ class, taking the Century 21 econ class that they had back then, and the teacher asked us all to raise our hand if we were going to college, and only half of us did. And that always felt pretty balanced to me, because some of us were going to go work in a business, or go work in a factory, or go start our own company, or whatever. I mean, some of us were going to go to college. I mean, it's just, the smart kids did that. You know what I mean? And it wasn't really drilled into us, because there was shop class in my high school. I mean,
Hmm.
you could accidentally discover how cool it was to be an auto mechanic, or a woodworker, or a welder, or an electrician, or a hairdresser, or a cook.
Yep.
Um, all things that are great businesses, and businesses you can start your own companies with. So there was not a whole lot of pressure in my generation to say you have to go or else. It's so bad now, where, the people who have all the money are the ones you should be careful when you listen to, because colleges are saying, if you don't come see us, you're going to be nothing. Nothing is further from the truth there. I mean,
Yep.
college has only ever been one of about 6 initial paths to success. And it still is. I mean, there's tech school, trade school, there's apprenticeships, there's working right out of high school, there's the military career, and there's colleges. So I think the fact that they took shop class out of high school and replaced those rooms with computers, I mean, we needed to learn computers, right? But why was it one or the other? So that was the first step. So you eliminated the accidental discovery of all these millions of kids of how cool that kind of work is. And then, the other thing is, we used to run around the neighborhood and build tree forts, and, dam up the creeks, and, do all kinds of crazy things. Now people are playing, build a city with Minecraft on your cell phone. That is not the same experience
Yep.
as, climbing a tree with lumber and hammer and nails, and,
Yep.
doing all that crazy, that, right? So,
Man, you just took me back. Like I'm having just this great moment of thinking about those days because it
oh
was
yeah,
magical.
Yeah, you riding your bike off, these little hills and falling down and hurting yourself. I mean, building bonfires and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that was another thing that just kind of disappeared. And then the third one is these colleges. They're so good at shaming school teachers and parents and guidance counselors and even the kids themselves. You know, when did it happen that my high school all of a sudden became a college prep school? Like, what does that even mean? Like, is there anything different than what it was before they put the words college prep on the wall?
Yeah.
Probably not. But what they're saying to you is, as you walk these hallways, if you're going to college, you fit in. If you don't, you don't. And that's a dangerous move, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because so many kids are walking this earth right now with 80, 90, 100, 120,000 in debt, and they're not using their degree, and they're becoming carpenters because that's what they wanted to do
Yep.
to begin with. And it's a tragedy. It's almost a crime, and it's sad because colleges do not care about you one iota once they have your money. On that fourth year and day one, they might as well just delete your name and forget you ever existed. Okay, and it's sad.
Although for 30 years, my undergrad school has chased me for more money, so they don't forget you. They want more money.
Right. Yeah, and then if you're going to operate on my shoulder so I can get back on the golf course, I want you to go to college and learn how to use a knife. I get that, that's for sure. But tell me why colleges need to walk around with 10, 20, 30, 80 billion dollars in their endowment funds. Like, what are they using that money for? And when you ask them, they either can't answer the question or they change the subject real quick and yell squirrel and look at, the other. What do they need that money for? They're not doing anything with it. I mean, colleges aren't getting cheaper because of that. They're only getting more expensive. And you ask them why they have it, and they can't really answer the question. So it's I love it when they say, well, we're doing scholarships with that. You could give away free college for the next 100 years and never run out of money. Okay.
Sure.
So let's get that straight right off the bat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a racket. And I think they're starting to get caught a little bit. I think people are realizing, like you just said, I mean, Apple Computer 2 years ago hired 50% of their employees without a college degree. So there's big things happening that are starting to turn the tide. However, the trades are a different story because kids are not willing to get out and use rakes and shovels and welders and hammers and nail guns and all that kind of stuff.
You speak to it in your book. You have like pretty detailed statistics.
Oh yeah,
about how the trades and the apprentice, the average age should be 19, but it's like 27 or something, and that's a slippery slope for when you need help. You
for
need
sure.
something done.
The average age of a carpenter is 55, and they retire at 59. So I mean, of the 10 that are retiring, only 4 or 5 are replacing them. So you can see what's happening. Now, I can tell you this: if you're somebody that has your ears open and you're seeing things and you're aware, you can take serious advantage of this. It's like a silver lining of the grayest cloud in the world, because obviously if everyone's going this way and you decide, well, maybe I should go that way, supply and demand dictates. And I remember this from the same econ class, that where supply is low and demand is high, that's where the money goes. And that's what you're seeing now.
Yeah. Prices go up. Yeah. Love it. You speak in your book eloquently to it, but I'd love you to share it with the audience. And the book I'm speaking to is Blue Collar Cash, which I love that title. I just absolutely love that title. Available where books are sold, of course. Can you speak to comfort, peace, and freedom? And it's kind of a continuing theme throughout your book. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So my theory is, if you don't know what you want your life to look like, it doesn't matter what you do for a living. I mean, I think we all need to think about this. We don't live to work. We work so that we can live. Well, so let's figure out what the living looks like, right? If you could sit down and say, okay, I'm going to draw my life out. And that's what I encourage my employees here to do. And we do a lot of this. Draw out what you want your life to look like. And I mean, literally physically draw it out on a big poster board. Create that brochure that is to be your life, right? Draw what your favorite house might be, your favorite transportation, car, truck, whatever. Draw what your favorite vacation might look like. Draw what your favorite pet might look like, dog or cat, what color, what would you name it? Draw what your favorite sport or hobby moment might be. Draw what your give back, your charity moment might be, your spiritual moments. Draw all those things. Like if I could live like this, Roger, that would be really cool. This is my nirvana. This is my comfort, peace, and freedom. And the reason I chose those words is because you got to be careful that when someone asks you to draw your perfect life, that you don't start drawing yachts and Ferraris and mansions, because not everyone's going to get that. Not everyone even really wants that. It's just kind of a default mechanism. Okay. Yeah. If I could drive a Ferrari, that'd be great, until, it's Northwest Ohio and it snows half the year. And, you can't pick up groceries in a Ferrari. I mean, it's just, you got to get through to the reality of this. A lot of people can figure out what they want their life to look like. Their little comfort, peace, and freedom nirvana is what I call it. And the reason I put that through the book so much is because if you draw out that picture very clearly, your brain goes through this thing. And I just talked to Jarek Robbins, who's the son of Tony Robbins, and Tony wrote a little blurb on the front of my book, which is pretty cool. But the reprint has this little blurb of Tony's, and it was really nice of him to do. And then I was able to talk to his son. And one of the things that his son said was, when your mind sees something very clearly, very colorful, very vivid, like a brochure of your life, it begins to have these little electronic signals that go back and forth. And the more you see something, the more these signals become actually one straight signal. And what happens is, the attraction that everyone thinks about, or the focus that everyone thinks about when you hear these things, becomes ownership. And your brain actually thinks it already owns these things. And so it involuntarily moves your body in ways that go to get those things. So you're using the power of this amazing computer that's called your brain, and you're allowing it to fulfill what your life could look like in an almost involuntary way. It's an awesome power if you think about it.
Yeah.
And most people don't ever get near it because most people are reactionary. I react to a stimulus. It's cold outside, I'll put a coat on. Okay. I got hit in the face, I'm going to back up. I mean, whatever it might be. I put my hand on the stove, it's hot, I back away. Most people don't think in a proactive way. What I'm saying is, think of your life in a proactive way. Figure out what you want it to look like first, and then pick one of the many ways there are to get there.
You're absolutely right. And I just the other night, having dinner with my wife, I said, what's crazy is people spend more time planning their yearly family vacation than they do any financial planning or their life, their career. They spend more time planning that weekend Disney than they do their life. And I don't have an answer why that is.
Well, I'll tell you why that is, because we've been told that we should plan that our whole life. So when you're a kid, you're the recipient of that vacation and you're the dreamer of that vacation. When you're 16, 17, you start to get a hand in planning that maybe a little on your own, where you can go to like spring break. And then when you're 21, 22, and then you start to have a family, and then you go to the Disney World thing, and then you go to retirement. So there's various stages of your life where you learn how to plan that, right? The good news, though, is it proves my point that we know how to visualize.
Yep.
We know how to plan. So if I can plan sandals and the beachfront and the waves crashing in, and I can smell the air and I can feel the breeze and the heat on my face and the sun and the suntan lotion, that copper tone suntan lotion that smells, everybody knows what that smells like. You plan your vacation, your vacation spot, your hotel, you plan the restaurants and the airlines and all that. If you're that good at planning that and then anticipating it, why can't you plan the rest of your life that way? So it just proves that you have the ability, and we all do. I'm no genius. Like I said, I never went to school. I don't have any letters after my name at all. But I do know a hell of a lot about visualizing and how to teach other people to do that. And I think that's what's so important, because we do it so many times in our life anyway. I mean, you visualize what you're going to make for breakfast before it's on your plate. You visualize what you're going to look like before you leave the house. You visualize where you're going before you get in your car. So we're doing it anyway. I'm just saying, take that to the next level and let's get a crystal clear idea of who we are and what we're going to do. and then allow that power to work for us.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people talk about manifestation, and some will instantly go to this woo woo type of thing. And you said it. It's neurology. It's basically neurology. You form new synapses that fire, that connect, that then your reticular activating system is looking for that to reinforce those beliefs. It's not crazy. Like it's legit neurology and
Actual
neuroscience.
science. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. I'm a big believer in two things. One, the trauma in our earlier life, whatever form that may take, um, and not too much of it because that's too bad, and none of it, you may not be motivated, can kind of push you toward success. And I'm going to prove somebody wrong. I'm going to prove myself right. Something along those lines. And on the flip side of that coin is the just really damn hard work also builds character. And I would love to hear your thought on what did you learn when you were 15 years old digging that ditch? Like what was going through your mind when you're 15 years old digging that ditch?
Well, from early on, okay. So again, I had four brothers. We lived in a very small house in Amherst, Ohio, and I don't think it was 1,500 square feet. So we shared beds and we shared everything, wore hand me downs, the whole 9 yards. And we weren't. I wouldn't say we were poor, but we were very lower middle class, and we didn't know it. I mean, you don't know that when you're younger.
Sure.
You just wake up and live, right?
Yeah.
But I do remember, we were allowed to have things. Okay, we were allowed to do basic things. We made a lot of our own fun. We didn't do a lot of expensive fun when I was young. But if I wanted a baseball mitt, I had to find a way to get it. And my father was like, "Go find a way to make it happen." So I just remember saying, "Okay, so if I work at this bakery, let's say my glove was $21. I don't remember what it was, but if I work at this bakery and I'm making $3 an hour, I can work for 7 hours and I'll get that glove." I just remember having those conversations over and over and over. So the wisdom to me came with, you know, I couldn't believe people were willing to hand me money to do hard work because I was doing all that hard work for my dad for free all these
Sure. Sure.
years. Yard mowing the yard and doing all
Yep.
that stuff. But yeah, people would hand you money to do work, and the harder you work, the faster you work, the more money you got. So there was a hell of a lot of control in that for me. I love the fact, and this is why I love blue collar work so much, because you can control your input, you can control your output, the quality of that output, you can control your day, your time, your schedule, and your financial gain. So you don't normally get that in the 15th floor of some cubicle in some office building where you have no idea how you even fit into this cog in the wheel, right? So yeah, there was an enormous amount of control for me, and I think that's, and then to duplicate myself. Okay, well, if I can do this much work and make this much money, and I'm just one human, what if I got two or three other people around me? And the beauty of paying someone $5 an hour when you're charging the customer $7.50 for that person. I mean, that's just American. That's the American way, right? That's
Yep.
entrepreneurship. So yeah, all that stuff just kind of started to grow and blossom. And as you start chasing bigger things, they're more expensive. You need to make more money, and then you need to plan better. And it just kept going.
Yeah. What you just spoke to is delayed gratification
Sure. Yeah.
that this world needs a little bit more of right now. This world needs a little injection of that.
Well, and the difference is this. You're right. Things like social media and all that stuff, they create this instant everything. Google creates instant everything. And I hate the fact that, our kids don't have to go search for the answer. It's just right there. Um, at the same time, though, there's opportunity in all of that, right? And I think the best part about the technologies we have now is you can take almost any goal you want and turn it from an if goal into a when goal. And that's the thing. I mean, you can either let life happen to you or you can have happen to life. And I know that sounds cliche, but think about it for a second. I can take any goal you can think of, okay, and turn it from an if or a someday to a when and a certain and make it certain. It's just a function of time. One of our biggest early on goals that we hit, my buddies and I, is we went to Scotland to play golf at the home of golf at St. Andrews.
Wow.
And I was 23 years old. And, we knew it was going to cost us $4,000. And we're like, man, when are we ever going to get 4,000? I said, well, wait a minute. Let's time this out for a second. So that's $1,300 a year times 3. So that's like, what, $25, $27 a week. Can we all put $27 a week away and just forget about it? Go to our payroll clerks and say, bury this money so I can't see it. And then all I got to do is live and breathe for the next 36 months and I'm going to make this happen. Does it really matter in your lifetime what year you went to golf in Scotland as long as you did it? That's why they call it a bucket list, right?
Yeah.
Bucket lists don't have time frames. They're buckets for a reason. So to me, it was like, who cares? I mean, 3 years goes by so fast. I just took down my Christmas tree. Now I'm putting it back up again already. So when you think about it, it doesn't matter when you do these things, as long as you certainly do them. And to me, that was the goal of it all was, okay, well, this is a big one. Let's put it out 3 years. And my buddies were like, 3 years. I'm like, you wait, we're going to have 3 years to think about it, dream about it, have fun talking about it, save money on our credit cards so we can improve our Sky Miles and get upgrades, all that stuff. And sure enough, we took 16 guys and went over there and we had 8 days of golf all over the place. And it was the best vacation. It was incredible.
Wow.
But that would never have happened if someone didn't say, well, why can't we do that? Let's make this happen for sure. Just push out the time frame so it's not insurmountable, right?
Yeah. Great story. So here's a question, a little different. So you are obviously a mentor and a coach to a lot of young business people, a lot of tradespeople, and you are teaching them amazing things. There's no doubt about it. After seeing what's in your book, it's clear you have the wisdom to share. It's always fun to hear, though, what have you learned from them as a mentor? A lot of times, we learn from our mentees. What would you say some of the lessons you've taken from them are?
That's a really great question. I've been on a lot of podcasts and I haven't been asked that a whole lot. So that's a really good one. I would say this. I would say that don't be surprised if the people that surround you can take you way further than you can take yourself. And what I mean by that is, I'll just give you a quick example. So I was at a business meeting here in my office, and I decided that I wanted to create another level in our business. We were kind of hovering around X and I wanted to get to Y. And I said to the staff, I had some entrepreneurial thinkers around me, which I love, by the way. That's a whole nother conversation we could have. But I had them around and I said, okay, we're at X right now. I'd love to get to Y. I didn't give them a number, though. I said, I just want to take this place to the next level. And I want to because I want you all to share in that. Okay? We can afford to live a certain way, the way we are now, but I'd like you all to be able to afford to live even a little nicer. So let's get to that next level. And I had a number in my mind that was $2 million annually higher than our current company's volume. Okay. And this was like 15 years ago. Well, I had them all write down on a piece of paper how high they thought we could get the company in the next year. And do you know, every one of them was almost double what I had said.
That's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
What I realized was I was my own anchor. I was the one holding the company back. I thought I was thinking big, but these people were thinking bigger. Okay.
Yeah.
So sure enough, I just got a grin on my face and they said, well, what do you think? And I said, it doesn't matter what I think. Okay. I crumpled up that piece of paper and stuffed it in my pocket. Right. So yeah. And I said, well, then if we can do that, then I'll reward you with, no, I said it differently. I said, then you will reward yourself with this, and this. And they're like, hell yeah, get out of my way.
Yeah,
so, and they did. They went out and they hit that number and they've been climbing it ever since because they work essentially, Roger, they're working for themselves first and me second. And that's fine. In any organization, and I say this all the time, I can't get what I want, nor can my company get what it wants and needs until all of you get what you want first. And it's absolutely true. You know, you have a business is linear. You know, you have an input, you have work, then you have an output. I'm always on the output side. Okay. I'm at the end of the line. And so it's true. And so why don't you take advantage of that as a business person and allow these people to grow? Because they're going to drive that company way further than you can drive it yourself. I promise you, especially if you've been doing it a while. because you think you got it all figured out. You don't. And so a long-winded answer is be careful that you don't hold yourself back, because the people around you can take you way further than you can on your own.
That's a great answer. Um, Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because
Yeah, absolutely.
that's not what I was expecting as an answer, and it was better. That was fantastic. Thank you. Um, Real quick, one last touch on your book, Blue Collar Cash. In Blue Collar Cash, you talk a lot about the 5-gallon bucket brain.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can, just in a synopsis, you don't have to go crazy in depth, but it was interesting philosophy the way that you built this. It was very, very visual too. Can you speak to that, please?
Well, first off, where I got the word bucket from is we use hundreds of buckets here every year. We buy old used buckets, like pickle buckets and oil buckets and all these buckets, from people who are trying to get rid of them, because they
Yeah,
manufacturers try to. We buy them for like 50 cents a piece from them.
yeah,
So giving a crew a brand new set of buckets, even though they're used, is like a great thing. It's like, great, they
sure,
work, they got handles. This is awesome. So we use a lot of buckets. So, anyways,
yeah,
I thought, most brains, most heads are like a 5-gallon bucket. You have the basic DNA on bucket gallon one, and then you have, the things that you kind of like, um, movements and heart and blood and breathing, automatic processes, things like digestion and repair. So then gallon three, you have the things that you kind of that the movements, of your arms and your legs and your spatial orientation and all those kinds of things, coordination. And then you get into the 4th gallon, which are the things you input, like your learning, your education, the things that you download into your brain. The top gallon, is the one you got to be careful with, because when you fill a 5-gallon bucket, that's where it spills first. It spills easily over from the 5th gallon. And that gallon is where all of your emotions are stored. And because emotions come and go very quickly, anger, sadness, fear, frustration, jealousy, and admiration, those things all come and go very quickly. So you have to be very careful that you are a very good, I'd say, bouncer, okay, like a bar bouncer for who you let in and who you let out, because they really are a choice. And you can see someone that's angry, you can see someone that's joyous, because it's spilling out over and you can see it. And the problem with it is there's only a limited amount of room in that gallon, in that 5th gallon, or in your bar, if you will. And only so many people can get in, and only so many people can stay in, where people have to leave before more come in. So again, joy cannot be there if there's anger. Admiration can't be there if there's jealousy. Spontaneity and discovery and curiosity can't be there if there's, again, sadness, frustration, okay, and loneliness. So you have to really be careful what emotions you choose to put into your brain. And you have to first start by understanding it is, in fact, a choice. I mean, I don't care if somebody punches you in the face and you get angry, you're still making a split-second choice to get angry, in fact. So you have to know that if you sit down on a weekly basis and say, okay, here's all the emotions that I've felt last week. How many of them could have been a choice that I could have chose to not taken in? And because I did that, what was I leaving out? Like, I was frustrated all week, so I didn't take my dog on a spontaneous walk. Well, I just blew some comfort, peace, and freedom right there.
hmm,
Okay. I was I was sad about something, so I didn't experience the joy of watching something. I don't know, maybe watching a documentary that I could learn something from. You know what I mean? I just watched the one on David Beckham. It was fantastic. So, if you're not careful, time goes by and you realize you've lived in this negative world, and you've cut out a lot of things that you could have done, told someone you loved them, or called your mother, or had lunch with your friend, because you're stuck in this other thing. So
yep.
flush those out, realize their choices, and then start with new ones and put them all in the order that you want to put them in.
I would say to the listeners, rewind that and listen to that again, because that was a huge knowledge bomb right there. That was awesome. Awesome. Right. There's the last few questions here. One, I'm an avid reader, and listeners know that. And so I always ask guests, which book can you think of that when you read it changed your course. It augmented your life. It made a material impact on you, and you'd like to share that with the listeners.
Well, there's a couple of them. I would say just
Sure.
for personal development, it would be The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is still a bestseller today. Believe it or not,
Yep.
it just won't go away. And it's such a good book, and it
It's
just gives
timeless.
you
Yeah.
it gives you a lot of those great little things to how you become effective in dealing with other people and that kind of thing. Another one is a very probably a lesser well known book. It's called Gung Ho, and it's one of those what's it Spencer books? I can't remember, but
Yeah, I know. It's the little thin guy. I know exactly what
yeah,
you're talking about. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, he found a way to. I mean, he tells the story of how you can take the most boring department. I think he used the taxation department at some city municipality or something, and
Yeah.
he created a way to make it fun and created a way to make the culture great. And you just got to understand that if you're running at a company, you need to take stock of what your culture is like, because it's not like it used to be. Uh, People have a lot of choices where they work. People can actually say to you, "Hey, dude, what's in it for me to work here?" And you have to answer that question. I
Exactly.
mean, you used to be able to say, "Well, I'm boss, you employee. How dare you talk to me?" Like, it's flipped now because they have too many choices and too few people. So yeah, I mean, the whole culture thing for me is it's so important. It's so important. I'm writing another book on it because
Hmm.
um, I've got this side of the book, which is Blue Collar Cash, which is the consumer side of it. Like, how do I create a great world for myself? Well, in order to really completely get into that world, you need to find a place where the culture is awesome. And that's why I'm writing another book where I'm telling the story now from the perspective manager or boss or owner, how they can create good culture to attract people that would want to
Yeah.
do that. So yeah, it's those are two books I think are pretty important.
Love it. We'll actually put those in the show notes. I can't think of the full name either, but I know exactly who you're talking about. Last two questions. So, and not to be morbid, but let's fast forward to the end of your very full and rich life,
Hmm.
and we're at your funeral, and somebody, a loved one, is reading your eulogy. What do you want them to say? How do you want to be remembered, literally, at your funeral?
Well, I mean, I hope they would start with saying what he had a neon sign in his office for hopefully by then it'll be 60 years. He had a neon sign in his office, and I do, that says "Work hard, play hard," and
Yeah.
he lived by the rules of work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
But I also think I would want them, because we do a lot of giving back here. I believe in it so much, and I would want people to say, "This guy this guy wanted to make sure that you knew that he was interested in how fulfilled your life was going to be. And he knew that if that were the case, that he would eventually benefit on his own." So, um, giving back is one of those things where you can't put your finger on it, and you never give back so that you receive. That's a bad way to do it. But somehow it just seems to work out that way, that the more you give, the more you seem to be blessed with. And that's what happens to us. And so we continue to do it. And it's incumbent upon all of us, I think, to live our lives as full as we can, and turn back and help the one behind us to live his life as fully as they can, and shorten the learning curve to their success as well.
Love it. Absolutely great. Love it. All right. Last question. If second to last question. If you had a magic wand and you could wave it and make one material change in today's world, according to Ken Rusk, how would the world be different?
Wow, that's a big one. I think we spend way too much time dividing ourselves over dumb things. I think if we could learn that all religions matter. Mine's not better than yours. Yours isn't better than mine. I believe one way, you believe another. So what? We're all trying to be spiritual, great, giving, charitable, effective human beings. So between races and colors and religions, why do they have to divide us? I mean, just get rid of all those walls. I don't mean physical walls. I mean, get rid of all that stuff that people fight over and they war over and they don't like each other over and they shun each other. I mean, really? I mean, if you think about it, I hate to say this, but if I'm throwing rocks at you and you're throwing rocks at me and it's been 6,000 years and we're still doing it, I mean, are we getting anywhere here? You know what I'm saying? I mean, think about it. I think we should drop all that stuff. Just let everyone be.
That's one of the most profound, brilliant things I think has ever been said on this podcast. I love that. I want to steal that too. That's outstanding. Oh my gosh, what a way to end. That's perfect. Well, Ken, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. How can people follow you, get in touch with you, connect with you, just to learn more, to hear more?
All right, so here's my marketing piece real quick.
Please bring it.
I built this course that goes along with my book because I was tired of people reading all these books, putting them on their shelves, and then having me say, what'd you learn from that book? I don't know, but it's a good book. Oh, what about that one? How'd that change your life? I don't know, but it's a good book. I read it. Well, what's in it? I don't remember, but it's a good book. So I decided I'm going to force people to change, not someday, but this afternoon. Okay. So I built this course. It's 8 sessions. Each session's 45 minutes long. It's ridiculously simple. When you read it and do this course, you're going to go, how come nobody ever told me this? This is like, I'm almost, can't believe that it's this simple. So I've seen courses for $700, $900, $2,000. No, this course is $129. You get a free $25 book with it. So for $100, I guarantee you will change your life this afternoon. And you can get that at kenrusk.com. Okay. I donate most of the money to charity anyway. I mean, my life was good before I wrote this book, so I give back most of the money that I get from it to charity. But I would encourage people to go check the course out, because the people that have taken it, I've got like a 92% approval rating on my course, which is really hard to get. Yeah. And you can go there at kenrusk.com and look for that. You can also see me at Ken Rusk Official, at Ken Rusk Official, for all the socials to see what we're up to there. And we're having a lot of fun.
Perfect. We'll put that in the show notes as well. Just to dovetail what you said, I just coincidentally this morning read something, because you said, people read a book, but they don't use it. They don't remember. And it said, hey, these books are for self-help, not shelf help.
Right. So read them, we put them up on the shelf. That. Okay, I'm stealing that. I love that.
It's not mine. It's not mine. I can't take credit for it, but it's good. Well, Ken, again, thank you so much for being generous with your time, but more generous with your insight and your expertise and just your wisdom, your life wisdom, which was just really wonderful. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Roger. This is fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning into the ThriveMore podcast. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for any resources mentioned during the show. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you have access to the latest and the greatest. I'd also like to remind you to check out our website, ThriveMoreBrands.com. There you'll find information on the brands we support and information on franchising. Thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, always remember to set your intentions for the day and strive to thrive.